Rain hammered down relentlessly that night, pounding against the diner windows like it was trying to force its way inside. The little roadside diner glowed warmly against the storm, filled with the rich smell of fresh coffee and baked pie. In the far corner booth sat a man alone, his baseball cap pulled low, a faded jacket hanging loosely over his shoulders. To anyone passing by, he looked like nothing more than a tired traveler hiding from the weather. No one would have guessed the truth. He wasn't just a customer. He was the diner's real owner. His name was David. Years ago, he had built this place with his own hands, then quietly stepped away and trusted others to run it. Tonight, he was back for one reason only, to see the truth with his own eyes. Unnoticed, unrecognized, from the moment he sat down, someone caught his attention. A young waitress weaving through the diner, balancing plates with practiced ease. One arm worked hard, steady and fast. The other barely moved. It was wrapped in a rough bandage and held close to her side, stiff and guarded. Still, she smiled. She apologized when she took too long. She rushed orders back to the kitchen without complaint. Her determination was quiet, but impossible to miss. David couldn't look away. He noticed the tiny flinch when she lifted heavy dishes. The way her smile stayed fixed, even when pain clearly flashed across her face. What bothered him most was how little attention anyone else paid. No concern, no help, just business as usual. A tight knot formed in his chest. Who was she? And why was she being pushed to work like this? As the night stretched on, David watched closely. Her name tag read Emily. She couldn't have been older than 22. And somehow, despite her injury, she was the glue holding the place together. Coffee cups never went empty. Dirty tables were wiped clean before anyone complained. She even found moments to encourage the exhausted cook in the back, offering a soft "you're doing great" every time she passed through the swinging doors. But when she thought no one was looking, the mask slipped. Her shoulders sagged. Her eyes dimmed. Exhaustion and quiet despair flickered across her face. David felt his chest tighten. When she finally brought him his coffee, her hand shook as she set the cup down. He looked up gently. "Rough night?" he asked. Emily let out a nervous laugh, forcing another smile. "Nothing I can't handle." "Enjoy your coffee, sir," she said softly, already turning away before he could reply, as if she didn't want him to notice the pain shining in her eyes. She moved fast, too fast, disappearing back into the rhythm of clinking plates and murmured orders. David watched her go, and in that moment, he understood this wasn't just about a hard-working waitress. There was something heavier beneath the surface, something she was carrying alone. Over the next few days, David kept coming back to the diner, always dressed the same, always quiet, always just another customer hiding from the world in a booth. He stayed undercover, watching, listening. And every time Emily was on shift, she worked through her injury without a single complaint. Slowly, the details began to add up. Her shoes were worn thin at the soles, almost falling apart. Her uniform looked faded, washed so many times it had lost its original color. And her tipsy didn't toss them loosely into a pocket like the others. She folded each bill carefully and tucked them into a small notebook she carried everywhere, as if every single dollar had a purpose. Curiosity turned into concern. Concern hardened into something else quiet, determination. David knew he needed to understand her story. One evening, after the dinner rush faded and the diner grew calm, he finally found a moment. Emily was wiping down the counter when he spoke. "Forgive me for asking," he said gently, keeping his voice low, "but what happened to your hand?" She froze. Just for a second. Her eyes flickered with hesitation, like she was deciding whether to disappear or answer. David thought she might walk away. Instead, she sighed. "It's nothing," she said quickly. "Just an accident." "An accident?" David asked softly, not pushing, just inviting her to continue. She looked down, twisting the rag in her hands. "I fell while carrying boxes at my second job," she admitted. "The doctor said I should rest it, but I can't afford time off." David felt his chest tighten. "You're working 2 jobs with a broken hand?" She nodded, still refusing to meet his eyes. "Actually, 3, she swallowed. "I clean offices in the mornings, work here in the evenings, and do late-night shifts at a gas station." Her voice dropped. "My little brother depends on me. He's 14. Our parents, they're not around anymore." Her voice cracked on the last words. She turned her head quickly, pretending to straighten something on the counter, hiding the tears that were fighting to fall. And in that moment, David felt something shift deep inside him. The world seemed to pause for David in that moment. Here stood a young woman carrying more weight than most adults ever face, balancing responsibility, pain, and fear on injured shoulders, still finding the strength to smile at strangers over cups of coffee. She was fighting battles no one noticed, no one asked about, and yet she showed up every single day. Over the next week, David quietly dug deeper. Still undercover, still just another face in the booth, he listened and observed. He asked careful questions without revealing who he was. The answers only made his chest ache more. The staff admitted Emily always took the hardest shifts. She covered 4 co-workers who called out. She never complained. She was always the first to arrive and the last to leave. And no matter how exhausted she looked, she never once asked for help. One evening, David watched something that made his jaw tighten. The manager snapped at Emily for being too slow, even though her bandaged hand barely moved. The cook muttered under his breath that she was holding things up. A few customers sighed loudly when she couldn't carry as many plates at once. And through it, Emily smiled. She apologized. She pushed through the pain like it didn't matter, but it did matter. David's hands curled into fists beneath the table. Something deep inside him shifted. This wasn't just observation anymore. This was a responsibility he could no longer ignore. He knew it was time to step out of the shadows. The next morning, David walked into the diner dressed differently. No worn jacket, no pulled-down cap, just a crisp shirt and steady confidence. He asked for everyone's attention. The room filled with confused murmurs as the staff gathered around. "I need to introduce myself," David said firmly. "My name is David, and I am the owner of this diner." Gasps rippled through the room. The manager's face drained of color. Emily stood frozen, her bandaged hand pressing a tray against her side. David continued, his voice calm but heavy with meaning. "I've been coming here undercover. I've seen things I admire, and things that deeply disappoint me." The room fell silent. "But there is one person," he said, turning slowly, "who has stood out above everyone else." His eyes locked onto Emily. "You." Her lips parted in shock. David's voice softened, thick with emotion. "I've seen your dedication. I've seen your courage, your kindness, and your strength," David said, his voice soft but unwavering. "Even when no one noticed. You've been carrying burdens no one your age should ever carry. And yet, you still show up. You still give your best. You still shine. Tears welled in Emily's eyes. She could barely breathe, unable to hide the mix of shock and relief washing over her. From today forward, David continued, you are no longer a waitress here. I'm promoting you to assistant manager with a full salary, and you're going to take paid time off until your hand heals. Do you understand? The diner fell into stunned silence. Emily shook her head, disbelief written across her face. Why would you do that for me? She whispered, voice trembling. David stepped closer, gentle but firm. Because kindness deserves to be rewarded. Because strength like yours deserves to be recognized. And because no one should have to fight alone. The tears she had held back finally spilled over, sliding down her cheeks. For the first time in what felt like forever, the crushing weight on her shoulders eased. Even just a little. The weeks that followed brought real change. With David's support, Emily rested, healed, and finally felt safe to breathe. Her little brother, relieved to see his sister smiling again, began thriving at school. And the diner itself transformed, too. David reminded the staff that respect and compassion were as important as coffee and pies. That every person who walked through those doors carried a story worth honoring. Emily stepped into her new role with the same heart she had shown as a waitress. She encouraged her co-workers, listened to their struggles, and reminded them that they were more than just employees in a busy diner. She became the beating heart of the place. David never forgot the first night he saw her struggling with that broken hand. It reminded him of something he'd nearly forgotten himself, that businesses are not built on profits alone, they're built on people, on kindness, on compassion. Word spread through the town, and soon the diner wasn't just known for its food. It was known for its heart. Customers came not just to eat, but to feel like they belonged. And at the center of it all was Emily, the young woman who had once worked through pain and hardship, but who now found strength, hope, and family in the most unexpected way. David often sat in his corner booth, no longer undercover, quietly watching the life he had built thrive. And he knew this for certain. Sometimes the most powerful discoveries aren't what you're looking for. They come from the people, yo.